And when they say witness or be aware, it doesn't mean the child sees you, but as long as a child, and when they say a child, they're talking about age of school, 18 below. As long as there's a child in that house who hears the noise of you people rattling and exchanging words, and how would I put this? Then that child is aware. That child is aware. Some occasions, you might have a child asleep. If they they would have to go upstairs or wherever your house is like. Have a look at the children, and then they will decide whether the children knew or heard about it or not. However, that said, it is criminal offense in the UK to jeopardize bank if that's the thing. So for the sake of the children, I would say let's have a review of how we address conflict in our homes. It's very important. And yet, it's a criminal thing, or those sort of things. It also impacts children, even though there might be several reasons. Because some people, it might be financial abuse. Some people, it might be sexual. Some people, it might be, somebody's just coercively controlling you. They won't let you be. There's all of that. But what I want to say is there's always a cycle. And whilst it's not something I look at or, look too lightly, because I've seen so many of the impact of DV, not only on families, not only on adults, but more so on children. So what I'm going to say to you is there's always a cycle. And in as much, if you heard that recording, Tianche, you could hear her say something about 3-4 times, which means it's a repetition. It's something that always is there. And it's just the cycle of abuse, because they should be able to tell as adults when the tension is building. They should be able to tell when there's going to be an incident or a situation. Then after that, of course, they reconcile, there's calm, and then the cycle goes again. Could you just please in the comment section just say yes if you can hear me? Sorry, I know my voice is a bit, I'm in my me era, just chilling, minding my business. My voice isn't like 100% today. Thank you. God bless you. Thanks so much. So what I now want to touch on, which is always my biggest thing, if you know me well on this platform, think about me was okay. It's got to be something to do with children and young people. And young people goes as far as early 20s for me, but children and young people. But what I want to make us understand, because of course there'll be disagreements, there'll be arguments. Hopefully they're not to the extent of a DV, because the budget betting and all of that, then it means there's an imbalance of power. You're needing some form of escalation. But what I want to touch on today is just the impact this can have on children. Please, I beg you. Because if you hear this and you feel a conviction, please work on it. I beg you. I can't beg you enough. Now, the impact on children, and when I say children, it can also impact the adults. Impact, but my business is children and young people. But the biggest impact is physical health. Real chronic issues. I wish Mayor was around. She would probably tell you that in her line and in her profession, she sees quite a bit of this. But physical health, because if you keep it sustained, you will have things like, if it is really crazy, pushing, shoving, all those things, there could be injuries. You would have sleep issues. And you could even result in something where somebody can become disabled. Because somebody then pushes another person and they hit their head, or they break a bone or something. It can be a really serious issue. And I've heard of, I've had to deal with situations where, it's getting heated. Because then it's only the other person. The lady feels, she needs to run because she's used to the person being funny. And if in Lolori's staircase, she trips and falls and breaks her ankle. Now, because of the age she was, the healing process of that thing, every time to winter bower, she would have issues in that ankle. And it almost, I'm not saying she was disabled, but what I'm just saying is you can see how the worries and the fears of this thing can easily become a big deal. So that's just what I'm saying. because you can become hurt in those things. Now, another really big factor here is mental health. Because you keep worrying, you're scared of the person, you're thinking, can I leave this person? You can then have this anxiety sort of situation, you become a depressed person. It is massive. And you would have heard, even on this platform, I never leave here. So anything I hear on TikTok is because it's brought here. But I've also heard of things like somebody took pare because of okuri. And people are saying, why would she do that? It actually leads to those sorts of ideation that people start thinking, okay, loving is so much, but I'm going through so much with this person. Is it really worth it? And also, economic and social impact. Because you're fighting like thunder. If you fight so much one day and a little bit or something, it might lead to job loss. Or you go to your spouse's place and go and report them, it might lead to financial issues. And once there's that financial issue, we're in that situation, they must suffer. And I'll give you one example I've had to deal with in the past. They were serious. They were just having a disagreement or whatever. When they decide to keep malice, 1 year old, they were keeping malice. Do you know that the baby was unwell? And none of them noticed it, that this child had become unwell, because they were not speaking to each other. It just so happened that I think the husband just came home and just so for that sort of thing. And because there was malice, she did not even, and the wife, this is the wife, she did not even think to say to the guy, this child is not feeling well. Don't ever get to a place where there's malice to an extent that you become so selfish that you don't think about the child. Now, are you honestly being selfish? Maybe not. I think maybe you as the adult are so engulfed in the mental, emotional stress of it all that you can't think beyond. And that's where it's important to learn to forgive. Because bitterness also has links to all this, cancer and all these things. Bitterness, anxiety, and all these things, they have links to all of these things. Or, when I say cancer, I'm talking about also growth of, tumors and all of those things. So please, I can't emphasize this enough. I'm not saying I'm a know-it-all. I'm just saying that this is part of the field I'm in. And I know it like the back of my hand. So many people have become terminally unwell just because of hatred, just because of bitterness. If you think it's an exaggeration, I leave you with this, and Mayor can always testify to it when she comes. You spend more muscles frowning than smiling. So just think of it in that way. And some of these people, I'm sure Mama ache when they finish because of all the noise and the yeah. Honestly, I really, really feel that if people have those situations in their homes, they really need to seek right help and have people. I'm not saying Boromiro kind of thing. No, I'm saying it takes two. Seek help so that there's somebody somewhere who can teach you to conflict resolve. Now hear me. I'm not saying people who would listen to one side of the story and listen to another side of the story and then tell who's wrong. No. Don't get it mixed up. For both of you to ever get to that situation, it means there are communication issues and there's problems with resolving conflict. So nobody, even though there might be an aggressor, but nobody is better than the other. You both need help. Seek help on how to conflict resolve. And it's not always the case of one person is hot and the other person's got to be hotter. No. And it's not a case of somebody saying, She says, some things I think are a blessing because if it's part of what you're an expert in the field of, it comes to you like automatically. That's the way I'll put it. Now, what I mean by automatically is maybe because of my field, the way I see home life might be perhaps different. But I tell you one thing, almost clocking 50, I grew up in a home in Nigeria. I'm telling you this, never, ever, ever saw my parents argue. Honestly, to God who made me, I never saw them argue. And that's not to say they never argued, but that was the environment I grew up in. So when I go to a place and people are arguing and there's conflict, Oman for me like, wow, do people really live their lives like this? Now, I tell you something. The one time I saw my parents disagree, not even argue, they disagreed. And honestly, I'll be honest with you and say it was my fault. Because what happened was I went to QC. On this day, I had to go home with some girls that live in, like Allen and all of that. And what happened was, these girls, because I was at their mercy, because I was going home with them in their car. So they had gone to Unilag, we bought suya, mute. Thank you, sir. They had gone to Unilag, they bought suya, we had gone to Terry's Burgers, we bought shawarma and all of those things. So by the time the Mafide area, for some reason, there was like, by the time we got to Allen, there was like, issues with transportation. So I had to walk all the way home, which would have taken me nothing less than like 2 hours. So by this time, it was like 6 p.m., 6:30. Very, very unusual. My parents hadn't seen me. So my mom and dad got in the car and they were tracing, like trying to imagine how I would probably be walking if I was walking. And then they met me somewhere called, I'm not sure the name of the place. Is it called, what's this company called now? Cameron? That Cameron, Adeni Jones area. That was where they found me and they got me in the car. Now, my dad just turned to my mom and said, this is all your fault. That's all he said. And she was like, how is it my fault? And he never said anything and she never said anything. And I just felt to myself, oh my goodness, I've never ever seen them like talk this way. All I remember is we got home. My dad I think they were just too happy to see me. My dad just went for a walk. That's all I remember that night. My dad just went for a walk. And all I remember, and how I knew it was even serious was because my mom was like, oh goodness, so where has he gone now? So where exactly has he gone for a walk now? He needs to be home. I need him to be back. And she was even worried about him. And at that point, I said to myself, now you are the issue here. Because these people will probably have never felt. And I said to my mom, I remember saying, Mom, I'm so sorry. I'm really, really sorry. And she said, it's okay, darling. It's nothing to do with you. We're just glad we have you. And then he came back home, the usual thing. And then he came back home, the usual thing. And then he came back home, the usual thing I ever saw. So I don't understand, and I'm being honest, I'm not being naive. I'm just saying it really like throws me when people have heated arguments and they sound like arguments and they sound like arguments and they sound like they said. I know people who have come from like the rah kind of environment and they've worked on themselves. So what I know is it's achievable. It can be worked on. And if it's not for the reason that you guys actually love each other and want to be together, it could be for the sake of your children. Now, I know some people feel like they can't leave a relationship because it's toxic, but you've got to look after yourself. Sometimes a separation till you both get the help you need is useful. And separation just means you're just away till you sort yourselves out and come back together. But my biggest area is how does this impact children? How does it impact children? Now, there's so many impacts this has on children. Many impacts. Believe it or not, some children struggle in school. Some children 100% struggle in school. So you might be thinking, okay, Shebi, it's just me and the dad that argue. What has it got to do with the child? Some children are damaged. And I'm telling you what I know. And there's research to this. And that's why some years ago, like 2 years ago, it became criminal for children to be aware or know about this in the UK. Some children, in fact, the biggest thing is the UK is now recognizing children as victims of DV in their own right. Because remember, they didn't ask to be brought here. So when you brought them into the world and that's what they're witnessing, it becomes a thing of they are equally victims. Have you heard of cases where Okwatiyawo becomes so kini in their fight? And sadly, more Jews, they throw something and the child gets hit. Do you know how many children have died because two parents got so irate and angry with each other and they couldn't control themselves, and the children just happened to be the victim in the way of flying objects? So what am I saying in a nutshell? Children are I remember watching that movie, Jejeluye. Children are considered victims, whether they hear it, whether they see it, whatever. But it has a major psychological and emotional impact on children. Because some children are fearful. They become scared. They have anxiety. And even children as low in ages as 4 years old are now being diagnosed with depression. Please, let us consider the factors around our children. You want the best for them. You want them to be happy. But home life is not happy. Let's think about it. There's some children that when you see them or when you are around them or you go somewhere, when you just move your hand as an adult, you watch them flinch. Those children who flinch, there's something. It's either they get beaten at home or they're in the midst of DV. So there's so many ways that in my profession, there's so many ways I can identify that perhaps there's something happening at home. I'm not saying I'm going to look into it just because a child flinched. No, I'm just saying if I move around somebody's child or anybody's child and I notice certain patterns, those children in my head, I start either praying for them or they come on my radar and I start monitoring them because it tells me it's possible there's something. But you never look at just one thing and conclude. There'll be a lot of factors that will then make you realize there's something going on. Those are the children you would see with low self-esteem. When they're in the midst of even other children, or when they're speaking to adults, they're unable to look up, they're unable to be confident. Because sometimes what makes them feel low is not even the fact that they think people know them. Because when they go to a place where nobody knows their family as Alariwo, they still feel that way because what they're doing is they're internalizing blame. They're feeling like they're responsible for the breakdown in the family. Especially if and when a lot of the arguments or the dispute, is around children or something the child has to do. Let us be mindful, please. For example, if a child is meant to go to football, if you know that, okay, maybe the dad doesn't really enjoy taking them to football, and then the mom says to the dad, "Shoba phone trials or phone game," and the dad says, "Why am I going to do that? I'm busy. Why can't you take?" Then it becomes an argument. In a nutshell, as adults, what you're saying to that child you claim to love is that whatever that thing is, football, is not as important to you guys. Have your conversations, have your discussions away from the children. So that even if you're in the room and you say, babe, shall you take him? No, I can't take him. I'm tired. I'm even... the conversation is away from the child. The child doesn't have to feel that, so because two of them are arguing, who am I supposed to go with? Also, I've talked about trauma. I've talked about things like nightmares. I've talked about flashbacks. Some of these children become really sad and they become depressed, especially if the occurrence is massive. And these are the same children, perhaps you would see, with behavioral issues. They're either aggressive as well, or you find them to be very defiant. You can't give them an instruction and they would follow it because they're not used to it, because that is not what is modeled to them at home. And in some situations that can be maybe rare, I would say, those children, maybe more so the younger ones, they have a form of attachment issue. Attachment issue being that they have difficulty trusting adults. They have difficulty forming relationships. And in some the really young ones, what the issue is, especially if the child is of the view that maybe the mom is at the receiving end, those children, they would always cling to their parents at the school gate. They don't want to leave that mother because they don't know what would happen to her by the time they get home. So you tell me, if a child goes into school feeling like, I might just get home and my mom's hurt, how are they supposed to focus on their learning for the day? How are they even supposed to retain any information from their learning? John Toriolong, my passion remains children and young people, because I believe strongly that if we can touch them, we can, turn things around. Already we have a broken society filled with many broken people, and we should not reinvent a broken society. So all this noise of, we want Nigeria to be a better person, you be the change you want to see. You've got to be that change. So when people are saying, if we do this J4M thing, Nigeria will be a better... No. No, it's not this one thing that will make Nigeria a better person. Because what I see people who are not showing love, people who are not being empathetic to other people. I'm seeing people who have no understanding of what's happened and they're making decisions, uninformed decisions. I see people who, how would I even put this one? Are lying about a situation. Sometimes I've heard people talk on a platform and the host of that platform, fully well within themselves, knows that part of that person's submission is a lie. They do that stupid clap button that I think TikTok should get rid of. If someone comes on your platform, I honestly do not care what side you think you're on. If they say something that isn't true, the onus is on you as the host of that platform to say, whilst this is my stand, this thing you've said is not accurate. But if you keep quiet and let it slide, it means you're part of those spreading that propaganda. But that said, if you do not look after your children in the best ways possible, they would always have poor academic performances. I'm telling you, if you have a home where there's lots of volatile situation, and you're saying to me, you're under my voice going, what are you talking about? My child's doing really well in their academics, even though we have a home like that. Well, I say to you, congratulations, because you've got to remember when these things are said, they're generic. But I tell you, there's a certain aspect of your child's growth and development that will not be well-rounded. And you might never know till they're a certain age, because they might become of a certain age, they can't keep a relationship. They don't have a boyfriend, girlfriend coming their way. So sometimes you would have some, not all. And at other times, you would have issues with, especially with babies. If you've ever been pregnant women. Now, when a pregnant woman becomes agitated, I need Mayor here because it's not my field, but if you've ever gone to attend or support people with DV and Obiriyen, that's why some of them have miscarriages. The tummy would be like, oh mama, up, down, up, down, up, down, that sort of thing. That's why they always sometimes have to sedate some of them to get them to calm down. And you can imagine if a baby is experiencing that in the womb, their growth is not as best as can be, and then they come into the world. All they hear is ya, 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 coming from parents. It can lead to global developmental delays. The child might not speak in time. The child might not walk in time. The child might not babble in time. Because all of this have massive, massive impacts on the child. And children from these sorts of experiences could also have difficulties problem solving. And at times, they have chronic stress as part of. I always beg, I don't care what side of the fence you sit on, but please, let us get it right for the younger ones. Let's get it right for the younger generations. Once a child has something like global developmental delay, oh my goodness, I pity that family. Because before you know it, depending on the severity of it, you'll be having pediatrics, educational psychologists, all of them trying issues and behavioral issues. Because some of you might have a child who's been labeled or assessed as having ADHD or autism. But autism did not come natural to them. It might not even be in the family. It's only because of some of the trauma they've had. And that's why some children, you've got to protect them and safeguard them. There's so many, many, many things. Do you know what? I can't finish this topic, and I don't want to talk too much that it will detract away, because my key takeaway is, let's be mindful of children. Seek help if you need to. There's so many courses out there on conflict resolution. But please, let's look after these souls that God has placed in our care. It's very, very, very important. And there are times for you to speak to yourself. Speak to yourself when you're getting angry and upset. How do we want to address this? Be careful. Do you know what? This topic is massive. I can't do it all. But please, if you take nothing away from this, you being calm doesn't mean you're a mumu. That's not what it is. That's not what it is. But for the sake of the child, what are you going to do differently? And that's what I leave us with, because I could hear that person saying they all have arguments to me. No, not in my house. Not in my house. My children are not even allowed. My children are now 23, 8, and 18. If I'm not even around, they will tell you, stupid was not allowed to be said in the house. Stupid, the word stupid was not allowed. If someone's child came to my house when they were growing up and said stupid, my kids would be like, ah! Because we don't say it. And we don't say it means I don't say it to my husband. If I have an argument with my husband now and I say, you're such an idiot, he would be like shocked, gobsmacked. Because these are things we've had to work on and teach ourselves. But we can express ourselves and say, mioba. But we always have a way of, okay, one person, okay, we shelve the idea. We say to each other, we go away, we go and pray about it till we both come into agreement. Even if you like, let me take 3 months. That is our agreement. Even if it's like we want to invest in something. Till we both agree and pray about it and come to an agreement and feel convinced. And this has always worked for us, because sometimes it will help you not to make the wrong decision. And it doesn't mean that no, it's not what it is. We've just had that thing that we've got to be one. We've got to be a team in making decisions. So am I now saying to you, because stupid was never allowed in my house, would I say to you that maybe now that my kids are adults, I can tell you 100%, because my kids still live in my house, in terms of uni, come back, they still don't say. But but I can tell you when they're having their banter with this, their Oyinbo, kiniko, these pretty cool children. Sometimes when I'm even saying, hey, oh, you guys are arguing, they're like, Mama, we're not arguing. We're just having a banter. And I'm like, oh. And it's not like they're even using those funny words. It's just that I'm Mofiba. Would I pay your voices are going up? And they're like, no, Mom, we're just having a laugh. And I've learned that the Gen Zs are very different. They have a good old banter. They have a laugh. They, all of that. So please, guys, please, for the sake of the children, please, we can't afford to have more. We're having an increase in number of children being diagnosed with autism. We're having an increase in number of children being diagnosed with things like dyslexia, all these things. They might be in the family, but you can minimize the impact on the child and on their learning. We don't need more children with cognitive difficulties. John Toriolong, I'm begging and pleading. These are things I see on a daily, and some of these things break my heart. When I do have the time, I will tell you exactly what I do, because I know lots of people are always guessing. No, I'm telling you, this is 30 years of expertise speaking. Please, John Toriolong, I'm begging on behalf of those children, just children. Please, let's show them how we love them and how we want them to love. God bless you all. Thank you. Sister Dupsy, are you awake now? Sorry, Moshisheton, when Tobafe was okay. Thank you, guys.